BookTube! Welcome back to the Babbling Bee, and welcome to my high-stakes Jane Austen July TBR. Now, I will explain in just a couple minutes what makes this TBR high stakes. But for now, if you don't know, Jane Austen July is a yearly readathon. This year it's hosted by Katie from Books and Things, Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, and Claudia from A Spinster's Library, and I will link their channels in the description box. And it's just a month dedicated to reading at least one work by Jane Austen, and typically there's prompts associated with it for, other types of Jane Austen adjacent reading that you can do. Now, I'm not sticking to the prompts this year for Jane Austen July, or that is to say, the prompts have not dictated what I'm going to read for the month. I basically have had this TBR in my head for months now, so I just went with it. But the prompts are very lovely and exciting, so definitely check those out if you are interested. So I guess we can just get right into it now. I have a stack of books and a stack of movies to share with you. So yeah, I'm so excited for Jane Austen July. I look forward to it every year. And as I said, this year it's high stakes, so we'll get to that in a second. So first of all, this is sort of loose. This is Jane Austen, A Life by Claire Tomalin, which I have heard mostly nothing but good things about this book. But every time I have attempted to pick it up and read it straight through, I have failed. So, I don't know. I'm not gonna put a lot of pressure on myself to read this in full this month. I think I'm gonna skip the first couple of chapters of it because I've reread those a couple of times now. And so I'll just pick it up a little farther into it. I have read Jane Austen at Home by Lucy Worsley, which I absolutely loved and which I found extremely readable and sort of addictive. And this is super fascinating and interesting. It's just not as speed ready to me, I guess, as Lucy Worsley's biography. But this, has an excellent reputation in terms of Jane Austen biographies, so I feel like I need to get to it at some point, but I'll probably just kind of dip in and out of this as the month progresses, and, if I read it all the way through, great. If I don't, no big deal. One that I would like to read in full is Miss Austen by Jill Hornby, which I have heard very good things about. This is a sort of fictionalized look at Jane's sister Cassandra, and I think it's supposed to be kind of diving into what motivated her to burn a lot of Jane's correspondence upon Jane's death. And yeah, just kind of exploring Cassandra as a character, and I'm definitely interested in that, and I've heard really good things about this, so looking forward to that one. And then another one that I just kind of plan to dip in and out of is the Screenplay Diaries of Sense and Sensibility, bringing Jane Austen's novel to film by Emma Thompson. I talked about this in my comfort reading tag recently. I have read and reread this, and I absolutely love it. And I definitely get a hankering for it every Jane Austen July. But because I've read this so many times, I don't think I'm going to plan on, absolutely reading it all the way through. But it may very well happen that I start reading this and then I don't want to put it down. So we'll see how that goes. But again, this isn't one that I strictly plan to completely finish. Which is also true of Jane Austen for Dummies. Now, don't ask me why I got this. I think I found it at a garage sale or a thrift store or something. It was like $2. Let's look at what some of these chapters are. Being Jane Austen, visiting Jane Austen's Georgian world. That sounds super interesting. Minding your manners, experiencing life at home in Austen's day. That definitely sounds up my alley. So I think this is going to have actually a lot of really interesting content in it. I never expected to find a For Dummies book about Jane Austen. But, here we are. So I'll just Probably dip in and out of this one throughout the month and see what I see, but not planning to read it in full. Okay, now we're getting to what makes this Jane Austen July high stakes for me. Now, since I was in high school and watched the 2005 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, and then later on the adaptation from the 90s with Jennifer L. and Colin Firth, I have been in love with and utterly devoted to Mr. Darcy. Specifically Matthew Macfadyen as Mr. Darcy in the 2005 adaptation. But since then, I have watched multiple different film adaptations of Jane Austen's Emma, but this is my last unread Jane Austen novel, or I should say, the last of her main 6 novels that I have not read. So this is a high stakes TBR in that sense, just because I have extremely high expectations for Emma. Over the years, as I've become more and more familiar with this story through the film adaptations, I have loved it more and more. I have been more and more drawn to Emma as a character, and much more sympathetic to her as a character than I was in high school. I used to think that maybe Emma was not the Jane Austen heroine for me and that I wouldn't like her, but I actually, at least based on the film adaptations, really like her now, and I'm so excited to read this. But reading Emma is going to be high stakes for me in another sense as well, because since watching these film adaptations of Emma, it has slowly crept into my consciousness that it is definitely possible that Mr. Knightley could replace Mr. Darcy as my favorite Austen guy. Which I never thought I would say, and if high school me heard me saying this, she would laugh. But I just feel like it could happen, guys, and I feel like what's definitely going to push it over the edge into reality is actually reading the novel and getting to know Mr. Knightley even more deeply through the reading experience. So we will see what happens. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe, you know, Mr. Darcy will remain in the top spot when this is over. But I don't know, guys. I feel like Mr. Knightley encompasses some of the qualities of Mr. Darcy that I really love, but he also has more qualities on top of that I like even better. And yeah, at least based on the film adaptations, he just seems to be extremely sweet and precious and funny and loyal and kind and like strangely, I don't know, innocent or just like good-natured in a way that maybe Mr. Darcy isn't, because he is historically a lot more sort of grumpy, which I know is not like, you know, that's like his external persona and all that stuff, but I don't know. We'll just see how it goes. I don't know what's gonna happen, but this is high stakes. Like, I'm very concerned about this, and I feel like there's just a lot to consider here as I read Emma. I'm very much looking forward to diving into this novel. I am planning to annotate it, not like, you know, super seriously, not as I would annotate something for study purposes, but just underlining my favorite passages and quotations and that sort of thing. So I will keep you updated on any and all ramifications that occur from reading Emma. Okay, now we're getting into just the fun stuff. I mean, it's all fun, but this is super fun. So this delightful stack here is all of the Jane Austen-esque or, you know, direct Jane Austen adaptations that I could find in the house, and I just grabbed them all up and put them into this lovely and cheerful pile. Now, I don't know if I will watch absolutely all of those in the month, but I mean, it could very well happen. And also, is that in any way like special or significant? Not really, because I watch all of these adaptations all year, every year. So, you know, it's not really a very big deal, but it's Jane Austen July, so we're allowed to just celebrate with all of these wonderful adaptations. So this is my favorite adaptation of Emma. I think this is 2009. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about if you're like a mega Jane Austen fan. This is the miniseries with Johnny Lee Miller and Romola Garai. and I think it is absolutely sumptuous and beautiful. I also have this adaptation of Northanger Abbey. I'll link all of these down below, by the way. I also have Becoming Jane, which I love so much. Not suggesting that it's like absolutely faithful to Jane Austen's real life or character, but I still love it. This is my favorite adaptation of Sensibility, but I also love the BBC miniseries, so I might watch that in the month as well. 2005 Pride and Prejudice. You either love it or hate it, and I absolutely and unequivocally adore it. So looking forward to that. This is the only adaptation of Persuasion that I've ever seen, and, you know, I enjoy it. It's not my favorite of all of the Jane Austen adaptations, but I do really enjoy it, so might get to that one. And then, of course, this is the immortal 90s Pride and Prejudice. Let me take this. This is cool, actually. This has, like, a book on the making of Pride and Prejudice, so that's exciting. And then, you know, there's lovely Colin, looking imposing as always. So yeah, I am just super excited for all of the Jane Austen watching and reading this month. Let me know if you are participating in Jane Austen July and what you're planning to read for it. Let me know what your favorite Jane Austen novel is, if you have one, what your favorite Jane Austen film or miniseries adaptation is. I would love to know. I hope you all have a wonderful reading month, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!